I'm making a video. Obviously, I was gonna do my makeup, but I shaved my face today. And as you can see, my skin's still like a little irritated from it, so I don't want to put her under any more stress. I don't know if you're probably gonna hear wind outside, maybe. It's very windy. That just happened, but today's been really gloomy, like really cloudy, kind of breezy, a little chilly. So I've like been like in one of those moods where I'm like don't talk to me. But it's just kind of on and off for me. I'm like, oh, like everybody leave me alone, like don't even like just ignore my existence. And then right now I'm like, oh yeah, like I should probably go out and do things. Anyways, beside the point. I want to talk about the drama, the film, because I had been meaning to. I wanted to talk about it more in depth. I was just scared because I don't know how many people had seen it in my circle. And I realized that if you hadn't seen it by now, that's really on you. Like, you really must not want to see the film that bad. Anyways, I think that it's time. It's been a week. It's been a week. I didn't want to put it off any longer because I don't want to lose any more of my thoughts that I already have. Like I've already lost thoughts and it'll probably hit me as I'm going, so this is not going to be like a very organized thought analysis and review on this film. It's just going to be all over the place. I can't guarantee anything. We're going to start off strong because I'm assuming that if you're still watching this, you have seen the drama. I'm assuming you've seen the drama, so this shouldn't come as a surprise and you shouldn't be mad at me. We'll start with her secret. Okay, well, before we get to that, let's talk about the film before, like, we even have that, like, what's the worst thing you've done dinner, you know? Let's go back a little bit. I think the way they met was cute. I almost said meet cute, but I don't know how to use that properly. I thought that was really cute. So I was like, oh, they're cute. I don't know what the why everybody was saying she didn't have chemistry with Robert and that they just had no chemistry. I don't know where that came from. This was being said before the movie came out. So I don't, and then people are still saying it now, so I don't understand how that happened, but they definitely have chemistry. Okay, that was a fun duo. Anyways, so it's the week of the wedding, or the week before. I don't know, but she's meeting with her coworker. Is it her coworker and her boss, or her boss? I don't know, two white women. Two white women, one of them being Rachel. This is our first introduction of Rachel. And, we don't really know much about Rachel, we just know, like, she's in her circle. We know she's in Emma's circle. And, not gonna lie to you, the vibes were already off here for me. I didn't like the way that, I just don't like people who are negative Nancy's, for real. Like, just keep it to yourself. I don't remember exactly what they were talking about at this, like, little coffee meet. Oh, it was how Emma hadn't been in love before. And she's like, what, 28? I don't know, she's young. And Rachel was like, what? Like, you hadn't been in love before? And you could just tell that Rachel is like something else. Like, I feel like we've all had at least one person in our circle who's been like very negative. I don't know. So I just was really put off by Rachel then. That laid the foundation for me to be like, something's off with her. I don't know if something's off with her, but she's pissing me off. That was just odd. We got our introduction to Mike while, what is his name? Charlie. Ooh, why did I forget his name? While Charlie's doing his vows or writing them. I thought the whole thing was cute. I really liked how we were just playing back and forth between their silly and romantic moments to where he realized, like, these traits about her and whatnot. I thought it was really cute. And I thought it was a great way to, like, oh my god, the words today, to just bounce off of Emma and Charlie's, like, perspectives of things. I thought it was fun. Anyways, that's our introduction to Mike. I thought it was so cute that he was crying over Charlie's vows because it was that sweet. I was like, yeah, real love for real. And all right, so those are like our introduction to the core four, like the 4 characters we see throughout the entire film. I'm trying to remember what happens between then and the before they meet for dinner. I don't think a lot because it literally happens within like 20 minutes. Anyway, so I'll just go to the dinner. Okay, this was a lot for me. I do want to say, okay, I'll just tell you my theater's reaction as we were going. There's probably like 8 single people in here, not even lying to you. Like, we all came single prepared for this film. Like, this was not a couple film for some reason for Las Cruces. So we're just, you know, we're kind of laughing at everything, you know, like the jokes so far, like before the dinner. And so we get to the dinner, and, you know, if you saw the trailer or the teaser, I don't remember which one, you know that something is said at this dinner that everybody's like, what is wrong? Like, what is wrong with you? And so as soon as we get to the part of the dinner where they're going around, where it's like, okay, everybody just like go around and say like the worst thing they've done, my heart stops, okay? Because I'm like, I don't know why, but I was sitting up in my seat while this whole entire scene was happening. I wasn't eating anything. I put everything to the side. Like, I had to focus on this because I didn't know what was about to come out of one of these characters' mouths that was going to ruin the entire vibe. I was terrified. Like, I swear, I don't think I've ever felt that way watching something. Like, I knew something crazy was about to go down. So I'm getting nervous, and as the film or the scene progresses, like, Emma's looking around, she's getting like, she's trying to gauge everybody, you know. And okay, I'm gonna start with everybody's confessions. Mike's, I genuinely thought he was about to kill the dog. I thought that was about to be his confession. Him using the woman as a shield, as a human shield, I kind of didn't care because she was provoking the dog. Maybe that's awful. See, I'm gonna say that I'm questioning my morality a lot because I don't think I had a normal reaction to any of these confessions. So our theater kind of just giggled. It wasn't anything crazy. We were still silent, you know, we were all feeling that kind of dread of like what was about to happen. So next we go to Rachel's, I think, and she locks, it seems like the person's mentally disabled that she locks in the closet. She locked a mentally disabled kid in the closet. A kid for sure, but maybe mentally disabled. I don't know if we got more clarity on that. I know later in the film she says he wasn't disabled, like mentally disabled, but I don't know for positive. She could have just tried to been saving her ass. Anyways, we find out about that. I was like, yikes, that's awful. I genuinely thought that was awful. Maybe that was just my bias playing in because of how I didn't have good vibes from her from the beginning. But I thought that was a crazy thing to do. And like, he was locked in there for like, what, over a day? Definitely longer than he should have been. And this kid is having a full-on like panic attack in the closet. You know, like, and, you know, the parent comes and asks, like, do you know what happened? And you just sit there and, like, no. Like, I thought that was crazy. I thought that was awful. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, so Charlie's turn. At this point, everybody's kind of being receptive. I think Emma was kind of weirded out by Rachel's. I'm not gonna lie. She just, I don't know, the vibes. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she had, like, a bit more questions to ask there. But she's still, like, Emma's still on edge, you know, because she still hasn't said hers. So she's trying to gauge, like, how, like, if she can actually say the worst thing that she's done, you know? And I think that maybe hearing Rachel's kind of made her think, okay, I can do this. Like, this has to be a no judgment zone at this point. Those are my thoughts. Maybe I'm remembering the film wrong. Anyways. So Charlie says his. I have thoughts on Charlie's. I will say I laughed. I laughed at his confession. That's just on me. That's on me. I'm sorry. But I also don't think he was telling the truth, or he made it up. He made it up, I think. He just seemed like he was trying to rack his brain to something that could be bad, but not as bad. You know, like that wouldn't be too bad, that would off put the whole table. So him saying like he cyberbullied a kid and made him move away, I thought that was I don't know. I don't have normal thoughts on cyberbullying, I don't think. I don't think I have normal thoughts on that. So I was like, okay, light work. Then it's Emma's turn. She's like nervous. She takes a like really large, was it drink of wine? Anyways, she says hers. She's like, what'd she say? I planned a mass shooting. Or I almost did a mass shooting, something like that. Everybody kind of thinks she's joking at first. My theater was like, oh shit, like, we all just kind of like went, ooh. That was it. Like, we were like, ooh, like, yikes. And then, you know, everybody, all three characters are like, oh, you're joking, right? And she's like, no, like, this is how I became deaf in one year. I was shooting the gun and, you know, I got too close. And he was like, Charlie was like, you told me you've had that since birth. I was like, yikes, like, but I think, I don't know why my reaction, I didn't have a very adverse reaction to what she said. I will say that. I don't know if it's because I've been desensitized to school shootings, as most Americans have been, but the idea of somebody planning one didn't seem that outrageous to me, okay? I'll probably get into that more, but I was just like, okay. I don't think my theater was that fazed by it either, so maybe let's do some psychological thinking there. But when Rachel was like, are you serious? Like, this, okay, this part. So when Rachel was like, you know, my cousin was hurt and that's why she's paralyzed from a school shooting. Listen, I know I'm going to hell, most likely, but when I tell you, I laughed. I tried to hold my chuckle at first, but I couldn't, because it just seems like, of course that happened to your cousin, you know, like, of course that happened to her. So I laughed, and then I don't know if my theater felt more comfortable to laugh, but we just kind of all busted out laughing, because it just, of course, like, I just feel like that's the luck of me. Like, I confess the worst thing I did, and it's probably something really niche, but like, God forbid, like, oh my God, somebody else at this table, like, has been affected by that. You know, like, it was just, I laughed because of that, but just kind of laughed because I don't know. So, Rachel's really getting wound up about this, and everybody's kind of like, Charlie's still trying to figure out what's going on, and Mike is just trying to calm down Rachel. She just says, like, Emma's like, I never went through with it, but I planned it, you know, and then after that, you know, Rachel is being Rachel, and she's like arguing, or she's trying to argue, she's like, you're sick, da 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 da, and then Emma throws up, right? It seems like that's the common reaction that Emma has when she talks about this phase in her life where she planned a mass shooting. I think it's interesting because for me, that just kind of signals that she really does feel disgusted with how far it went and how deep, what are the words? How sort of like a deep cut for her. Like, it's just a very traumatic moment for her, even though she was about to like traumatize other people. So I thought it was an interesting thing because for me, it just showed that she did feel like remorse in a sense for what she did, or what she planned to do. And so we go on into the film the next day, and, you know, things are off with Charlie because obviously he didn't know that his soon-to-be wife was planned a school shooting. So I get that. Okay, this is where things get funny because people think, so when when Charlie's talking to Mike, if this man's name is not Charlie, I'm gonna laugh, like, straight up. I'm so sorry. Charlie for me right now is Robert Pattinson, and I don't feel like looking up his actual character's name. I'm just hoping it's Charlie because that's what I remember. Charlie is talking to Mike, and Mike is like, hey, like, you need to call off the wedding, and Charlie's like, I know, da-da-da-da, I didn't expect that, and then, like, Mike's calling her a psycho, and that if he needs to, like, that he'll hit her, and, you know, sort of just cuts to Emma sitting alone in their living room, or their living space, and my head, I'm like, okay, so she's just imagining, like, worst case scenario. I do this all the time with myself. But a lot of people take that as, no, Mike was, like, full on threatening to hit Emma if he had to. Anyways, don't know why, I just feel like I had to clarify that was Emma, like, imagining that. Anyways, so Charlie's off, and at this point, I'm trying to dissect my own feelings on how I would feel if the love of my life just told me, in front of everybody, mind you, that they planned a mass shooting. Now, I think for Charlie, no, I'll just speak for myself. I think for me, I wouldn't have been that, like, off put by it if you had told me in private. I know it's, like, the most, like, horrifying thing you've done, but if you would have told me in private, I feel like I could have shown a true reaction, because if we're around friends, then I can't really react the way I want to. But that, when I say that part of reacting the way I want to, I sort of think Charlie is a people pleaser in the sense of, do I think he is, or do I know he is? But he didn't know how the table wanted him to react to that, and so he's taking everybody else's, like, reactions into account for how he should react. So when he's alone with Emma, he seems very understanding about it, and his biggest gripe with it, I think, is not telling him in private, like, just the two of them, so he could find out how to, like, deal with that on his own without having the pressure of his friend and his friend's wife having really, like, strong feelings about it. That's what I took from it. But then sort of around this point, we also get this, I don't know, like, I think it's Emma again, just sort of imagining her planning or rolling out a shooting at her own wedding. So at that point I was like, whoa, like, does she actually do this? I didn't know how to take it, because we had, from the beginning, we sort of had these jumps to past moments of them, so I didn't know if we were kind of getting a future glimpse or if this was just her imagination. Maybe that was just me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm hoping this is all making sense right now. I actually do have more thoughts than I realized, because I'm, like, at 19 minutes right now. So I think that, I don't know, at this point I'm kind of scared for what's the day of, like, the wedding. And the whole movie, okay, let me just continue. I was going somewhere with that. So, you know, Charlie is asking Emma to explain, like, what even led her down this path, and while, like, every single time she discusses this topic, she gets super, like, she throws up. Like, I take that as remorse, because obviously you just can't handle you can't stomach the idea of you even contemplating something that terrible. That's how I took it. That's how I took it. So she's explaining, and she's just, like, telling him how, you know, like, online, like, you see things, you know, and how she kind of became obsessed with guns in that sense and how it looked, like the aesthetic of it. And she was also getting bullied, you know? She was also getting bullied, so it's not like a crazy idea, I think, for her to jump to when she's getting bullied at school. And what else happens? She says that, you know, she was probably just obsessed with it for the visuals of it. And to Charlie, that just kind of seems crazy. And I sort of think, I'm still kind of reeling on that because I don't know how I feel about that. But I do know how I feel about being on the internet at a young age and being exposed to, like, God knows what we were watching when we were young on here. Just awful things. So you sort of become desensitized to it. And I can see how a kid from our generation could be led down that path of planning a shooting because it seems like the visuals of it. I can totally see that. Maybe it's just, I do think the way you feel about Emma's backstory to it depends on what age of the internet you grew up in, because that just didn't seem that far-fetched to me. I honestly could see somebody else, like, I don't know, like, people aren't that honest about topics like that because why would you be? It's a very, like, taboo subject. But anyways, I sort of understood where she was coming from. Not saying I would do that, but I understood where she was coming from. And so the only thing that makes me iffy is her reasoning. Her reasoning for not doing it. It was because that another shooting had happened and it just didn't seem like the right time. That's how I took it. Maybe I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly, but I was just kind of like, that's kind of crazy. Like, the only reason you didn't do it was because another shooting happened. But I think when you layer in the fact that after that, she also found a sense of community within her school. And even if, I don't know, because I want to say that the part of her life after where she becomes an advocate for gun violence, against gun violence, I want to say that she actually believed those things, you know? And I think it's because she had that community that she finally, I think she just needed community. I think that's all she needed. So, again, it's not that crazy to me, but again, I don't know how everybody else feels about this. So, as the movie goes on, we just kind of see glimpses of Emma. How people are reacting to that scene of Charlie imagining himself with young Emma. You guys are stupid. I'm so sorry if you take that as anything like pedophilic. Is that how you say it? I don't think so. It's obviously him just sort of ruminating on how he feels. This is like the version of Emma that he now knows and that he's going to be very focused on because he didn't know this before. And obviously it's a big deal. Do I think she should have told him before? Yes, but I also understand why you don't, because saying that you planned a school shooting is a crazy thing to say out loud. Like, I don't know if I think that's something I would take to the grave. Anyways, so that scene where he's just imagining him and younger Emma, like, going around town, it made sense to me because he's just really distracted by that now. And as the film goes on and he's just kind of doubting his love for Emma because he doesn't know if this is the person that he, he thought he knew. So, I get that. People didn't. And let's not act like this is the first movie where we saw Robert Pattinson doing weird things with a minor. What's that movie, Good Times? Like, hello. Anyways, I felt for Emma because, you can tell that she can sense that her partner is pulling away from her after revealing this really dark moment in her life. And And I know that's just really sad. What I think the only thing I was confused on during the photo shoot scene was the pan to the woman in the back. I think she was like blonde, white. She was sitting on the couch while they were doing their shoot. We kind of sat there for a second too long, and it made me like think about what the reason was for that. I don't really know still. I don't think anybody's discussing this, so maybe I'm just overthinking it. That scene was pretty funny though, I will say. My theater was very open to the jokes that were being told regarding the subject. So very much a dark comedy, but my theater was chill. So we were fine. So Rachel's like, I don't know if I said a lot about Rachel's reaction at the table, but it didn't make sense to me because you did something really awful. You did something really awful, like really bad, and she gave no grace to Emma or Mike for that instance. I feel like there's a pattern there because two non-white people, your black boyfriend, and then I think Emma's like, she's mixed in the movie. So these two non-white people tell you that their darkest moments, and with Mike, she didn't really give him any like, como se dice, she didn't like sugarcoat it with him either. She's like, no, say exactly what you did and don't make excuses. When it was her turn, she made excuses for hers, and then, you know, she just kind of like shit all over Emma. So I do think that's interesting that she was willing to give, well, yeah, there it is. I think she said when Charlie was telling his that, like, you're a kid, da da da, and maybe I'm imagining that, but to not give two black people the same grace that you give yourself and Charlie whenever discussing the darkest moments or the worst thing you've done, noting that. So Rachel, I don't know where we are in the film now. I'm thinking. Charlie's obviously scared of Emma, and I felt really bad for Emma because she knows this now. The scene where he throws out the mug of the gun it's like, give me coffee or I'll shoot. She sensed that obviously it was still on his mind because he was sitting there saying he was fine. Obviously he's not. And so Emma goes up to tell him, like, why did you throw it out? But she has a knife in her hand, and Charlie's literally, he's scared of her, so he thinks like she's gonna stab him or something. So she catches onto that, and she kind of like walks towards him and like kind of with that knife. She scared me, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little too invested in that moment, but I laughed after because it is silly, but you could tell that Emma finally realized how scared Charlie is of her, and I think that's so sad. Like, you can see the heartbreak in her eyes as that happens because, you know, you've built this relationship with somebody for so long. You have that trust, and suddenly it's gone because of something that you didn't tell them. And I don't know, it's very nuanced, you know? And I still have mixed feelings, like, anyways, so what else happens? Charlie goes to see Rachel at her job, and I was irritated here. Because, Mike and Rachel, I think they're in Rachel's office. I don't know exactly what Rachel does. I never really concerned myself with that. And you can tell that Mike's sort of over it. You know, he's like, okay, like, we heard that, and we had to analyze that, but that's it, you know? Like, it's over. Rachel is still very much hung up on this, okay? And, Charlie's going over to try and, like, make amends with them and talk about it, but in the process of doing that, he makes up a story about how Emma had to watch her best friend die right in front of her eyes. So you can tell that he really cares about what they think of the situation and how they view Emma, which I guess I would understand because that's the love of your life. Obviously, you want people to view them well. But him, you could tell that he still was having his grippings with it because he was still making excuses for it. Like, he hadn't really come to accept that she just did that because I think the bullying could be enough. But because of the circumstances she was put in, he was making up excuses, and Mike believed him. He's like, see, like, that makes sense. And I don't know how it comes up, but Rachel's like, well, Mike grew up around guns, and before Mike could even say, no, I didn't, I thought that was weird. And then Mike says, no, I didn't. I said, ooh, you're racist. Or that was like a microaggression at the least. At the least. Like, you just sat here and said your boyfriend grew up around guns. Just because he's black. So, like, he says that, and then she's like, no, like, you told me. And then, like, he's like, my uncle was a cop, but why would you, like, assume that? And that was just another thing. Rachel was just, like, ticked off on my list, like, oh, you're racist. Like, that's it. I really thought that was interesting, and I don't know why Mike didn't, he did say, like, why would you say that, but they just kind of glossed over it, and we didn't get any more of that interaction. But I kind of want to know more about Mike and Rachel's dynamic. I feel like we got enough, but regarding that incident, you would think conversations would be had, but it didn't seem like conversations were had. So anyways, Rachel's like, I have to ask my cousin if it's okay if I go to the wedding. Okay, that pissed me off because okay, this doesn't make sense to me. You're doing it out of respect for your cousin. Your cousin wasn't even going to the funeral. The wedding. Might as well have been a funeral. She wasn't going to the wedding. She doesn't know who Emma is. She doesn't know who Charlie is. Why does this concern her? It doesn't make sense to me. And I would think that bringing up, hey, is it okay if I go to the wedding of somebody who planned a mass shooting? Wouldn't you think that's sort of like triggering to bring up to somebody who has nothing to do with, like, the situation at hand? I thought that was ridiculous. I was like, oh my god, like, let it go. Like, that was my real thought. And so then Charlie leaves after giving them that bullshit story, and he runs into the cousin. That was just secondhand embarrassment. Nothing really goes on there, but I was embarrassed for real. And then, you know, he's just still having gripes with this. He can't have sex with Emma, even though they have a really good sex life. You know, we saw little glimpses of it. Noted that. But there was a really uncomfortable scene where he's like, can't get it up. He can't get it up. So he's like jerking off in the bed on top of Emma. And like, Emma's just kind of waiting, but then she's like, we don't have to do this. And he's like, no, like, I want to. And just really, really uncomfortable scene. I just didn't like that feeling that I had. But again, I felt bad for Emma. And they just kind of had a conversation. He's like, obviously, like, it's still on my mind. Da, da, da. I don't remember exactly what was said there, but yeah. Anyways, I do understand why Charlie is so, like, hung up on this. I think very normal. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Anyways, but throughout the film, you know, he's at a certain point, I don't remember when, but he just deletes his entire, like, vows. And at that point, I thought that it was over between them. I was like, okay, so obviously if you don't have anything nice to say about your, like, partner, then I don't think anything's gonna happen there. But so that didn't happen. They obviously ended up together. Okay, and so, but Charlie's still having gripes with it, and he asked his coworker or she seemed like, was it like his assistant? I don't know. He asked her, like, very very specific, like, what would you do situation. Like, what if your boyfriend was, like, planned a mass shooting, didn't do it, but planned it, and then didn't tell you about it? He might as well just said, like, now they're deaf in one ear. Like, he could have just said all that. I don't know why it felt like everybody at that point knew the secret, but for me, that's what it felt. I was like, oh my god, just fucking say it already. Like, you already said enough. So he gets really, she's like, well, I don't know, like, I'd probably have to report him to the police. And then, like, you know, he's getting worked up, and the whole scene progresses, and he, like, kind of, like, flips the table. Not just flip the table, does he? No, because it's a big, long table, but he, like, something with his chair. I don't know, but he has, like, a little episode. And then he goes back to his office. Obviously, what is her name? I don't remember. But she's obviously a little shaken up because it kind of seems like you're the person who's, like, planned a shooting. I don't know. That's what I took from it. Like, she maybe thought it was him. But anyways, so then, you know, he's just kind of crying in his office. He's like, I don't know what to do. And then he kisses her. Now, let me tell you, my theater's reaction to this, we all said, ooh, like, we were like, like, we did not like that whatsoever. We had a more adverse reaction to that than we did with Emma's Secret. Like, that was the twist for us. We did not like that. Also, HR, you know, like, there's just something unethical about that, obviously. So it was not a good moment. What else happened? The whole DJ thing, I don't know if I have too many thoughts on that. I didn't really care. And then we'll get to the day of the wedding, because I don't know what else happens until that point. So Charlie, her name's Misha. Charlie has basically cheated on Emma with Misha, and Misha's there with her boyfriend Mike. That's not his name. That's the other person's name, right? Anyways, and so Charlie's on edge because he thinks that Misha told her boyfriend. And at this point, both Charlie and Emma are at their own wedding, afraid of who knows about their secret, right? Emma's kind of spiraling. She's like, she goes to the bathroom and she, like, hears, like, planned a shooting, something like that. And she's like, who did you just talk to? I think she's talking to Misha. She's like, who did you just talk to? Da, da, da. And, you know, they're both getting very paranoid at this point. And then, because Emma thinks that Misha knows, she calls Misha over to talk with her and Charlie. And then Misha says what she says, which is very unfortunate. I was so upset for Emma. You could just tell the betrayal in her eyes, obviously. Like, why would you do that? And I think the vows were the hardest thing to watch, because you can literally, I wanted to cry for Emma. You can see how, like, she's just trying to hold her composure in that moment because of what she just found out about Charlie. And then Charlie just couldn't get his shit together while he was reading, while he was, like, talking. Like, it was so awful. And then it ends with, you know, Misha's boyfriend finding out that Charlie made a move on Misha. I think that's her name, guys. I'm so sorry. It's not. And, you know, they fight. Not much of a fight, I don't think. Charlie gets his ass whooped, and then wedding ends. Well, Rachel has her little, like, maid of honor thing. I don't know. There was just no coming back for Rachel for me. Her character was just so annoying, and I really wish her character wasn't annoying, so maybe I could understand the other side of the argument with not being okay with somebody planning a school shooting, like, but because she was so annoying, I sort of had to, like, you know, take a side in the sense of, oh my god, like, you're really making me defend this. So anyways, don't really have much thoughts on her thing. I thought she was about to air Emma's business out, and I was really mad. But wedding ends. Charlie, you can tell during his speech that Charlie's coming to the realization that he very much loves Emma, and that never went away. Yes, he doubted it because of what he was told, but it was always there. And I think him having his own terrible moment, I think that was his worst moment, made him realize, like, we sort of have to get over this because I love you, in a sense. That's what I got from it, anyways. Again, that's what I got from it. That's what I got from it. That's what I got from it. And you can just tell, like, he truly loves Emma. And it's, you know, like, kind of, and it's not one-sided, obviously, but Emma's really upset with what she just found out. So, like, of course, like, she's upset. And so after the wedding, he doesn't hear from her, and oh my god, I'm gonna cry. I'm literally gonna cry, because love is real. Love is real. But whenever he goes to the diner, he's still in his tux with blood. I don't know why he did that, but and he goes to have the burger that they talked about, like, whenever, like, art, like, celebrities who won Oscars go to In-N-Out after a win. He still carried out that plan, even though he, like, didn't want to, you know? Like, he just thought it was he just thought it was, like, a weird idea. I thought it was cute, but he carries it out, and then Emma walks in. Oh my god! Guys, like, hold on. Like, I'm really trying not to cry because, anyways, Emma walks in, and, oh my god! Oh my god. They restart, and that's it. Love is real. Like, that was a happy ending to me. Like, oh my god, why am I crying? I'm just a lover, guys. Like, how can you not love that ending? Like, yes, people are flawed, and yes, nobody's perfect. Everybody's done something really terrible, but where is that line? Where is the line drawn in the sand for you when it comes to how conditional your love is? Like, that is just so, just beautiful. I thought it was a great film. I really enjoyed it. I do want to watch it again. I just don't want to, I don't know. My theater experience was so good the first time that I don't want to ruin it with the second and have some fucking idiots in my, like, I don't want to do that. So I'm probably just gonna wait till it hits streaming. But guys, love is real. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Love is real. Love is so real. And I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I really don't want to hear shit about Zendaya's acting ever again. I thought this role was really, there were layers to this performance that you just, like, very complex, very layered performance, and she did phenomenal. I don't care, fuck the noise. I don't know how much else I have to say as I make this video 43 minutes long, but I thought it was great. Trying to think of what else I can say, but I think that's it. Anyways, I haven't really engaged in much discourse regarding this film because I love it. And I don't want to hear anybody's stupid takes on it. And I know how I feel about it, and that's it. So, if anybody else is engaging in that discourse, have fun. But yeah, that's it. I didn't expect the video to be that long. Sorry about that, but bye.